Hello, hello. Uh, One of my goals for this year was to read more. Might have mentioned it a couple times. I don't remember anymore. But yeah, I finished my first book. Took 3 fucking months, but I finished my first book. Well, I don't know. That's like a half lie. Because technically, I did read something else already. I read or reread a poetry book, the Savannah Brown's Sweet Dart, and that was enjoyable. Took a lot of notes about that. But this is like it's the first like actual book, like proper book called. It's gonna be backwards for y'all most likely. I Never Metaphor. I didn't like. Interesting book, honestly, but yeah, I mean the little thing underneath kind of says it all. Comprehensive compilation of history's greatest analogies, metaphors, and similes. But I mean that's all it is. It's essentially a quote book. And I think that's sort of the best way to lay it out. I mean, so the author is a guy named Dr. Marty Groth, professor of sorts. But he sort of talks about it more so in the beginning that he has this, I don't know, I guess like infatuation with reading, and then more specifically quotes, the quoted works of different people. And a lot of quotes, or at least the ones that he seemed to enjoy, are mostly metaphors of some type. Metaphors, similes, analogies, whatever you want to call them. But metaphors at like a base level, typically, comparing one thing to another. Yeah, so a lot of his favorite quotes tend to be those sorts of things. So it's interesting because you're getting his perspective a lot of the time, but then you're also getting the perspective on different subjects, because this book covers quite a handful of things. But then you're also getting the perspective of like other people, right? You know, like famous people, writers. There's a section that has like a lot about actors, historical individuals, right? But I guess more so than anything, just interesting book. And I mean, not that like tasking really, because the way I read it, I would just read like a chapter at a time. Most chapters are, it's weird. Like, let me give an example. Because I mean, the thing, if I'm going to complain about anything with the book is about 300 pages long. And I think it moves at a very, very good pace with the chapters, at least. So, okay, so there's 15 chapters. Excluding the introduction, I guess. Yeah, so 15 chapters on their own, all of them about a different subject. I'll just run through the subjects real quick. Chapter 1 is titled Life-Altering Metaphors. Chapter 2, Human Condition. 3, Wit and Humor. Insults and Criticism. Definitive Metaphors. Life, Relationships, Love, Marriage, Home, and Family Life. Sex, Ages and Stages of Life, Stage and Screen, Politics, Sports, and then Literary Life is the final 15th chapter. But I mean, just me reading them out, and then me talking about, I guess, like pacing. I don't know if you talk about pacing for books in the same way you would say like an album, or like even a movie. Obviously, I think is like the main thing, or even games to an extent, right? Like story-driven games. But pacing for a book, I mean, it's still a story, so like there needs to be a pace to it. And I mean, this is a very different kind of book, because again, it's not necessarily a story. It's more so like information providing type of book. Like you wouldn't say like a cookbook has pace, you know what I mean? But not that this is like a cookbook, but you know what I mean. A cookbook gives you information. This is also sort of just giving information. But that said, there still is a pace in the fact that you are meant to read from one part of the book to the next, or to the end at least. And with the chapters, I actually thought it was very good, because like there's I'm gonna say from chapters 6 so to about chapter 11. And I thought all of that was perfectly paced. Just because I think some of the beginning chapters were like more so just like establishing what the book would be about. And that's completely fine, honestly. I mean, just because like, you kind of got to get your foothold and you got to know where like the reader is going to be standing with, the context of the book. So I guess like having the more like interesting sort of quotes at the very beginning like draws you in a bit better, or drew me in, because I definitely read the whole thing. So having these like life-altering metaphors regarding the human condition, metaphors regarding wit and humor, insults and criticism, and then just more like defining metaphors for at least those like first 5 chapters. Yeah, again, just very interesting, right? And it had me. And then you have 6 through 11, and it almost seems like paced in a way to like mark your entire life pretty much, and these aspects of your life: relationships, love, marriage, sex, and then older, aging type metaphors. So you know what I mean? It all seemed to be building up to something, why to me at least it was disappointing when after chapter 11, the chapters seem a bit more random, I guess. I don't know. Again, like you have this, and you have all these like metaphors and stuff regarding like life, different aspects of life, like a type of humanity, right? And then I guess you could say very easily that, like stage screen, which is chapter 12, like entertainment technically, politics, sports, and then like literary life, all of that, like it's another aspect to the life. But in those chapters specifically, it's more so talking about those like kind of individual like crafts, I guess, which to me just aren't nowhere near as interesting as everything else was. And then it's also double bizarre too. I mean, it's weird like looking at the chapters now. Each chapter is typically around 20 pages or so, but some of them felt longer in a good way. And then I think the last 4 chapters, 12, 13, 14, 15, we're dragging a little bit. Again, just because they were topics that I wasn't all too interested in. I mean, out of all of those, I think stage and screen was probably the most interesting. Just because I watch a lot of movies, so it was interesting to hear the perspective of certain actors. But another problem with this book too, the guy is a bit older. So, I mean, like the assumption is he's a bit better researched than I am, a bit more cultured than I am, no doubt. But a lot of the people are just like completely lost on me. I don't fucking know these people. And I mean, you don't necessarily got to know them to understand the metaphor, but at least with the stage and screen spot about the actors, a lot of that, some of the metaphors are like meant to be a bit humorous or whatever. Again, because they're actors, they're kind of playing it up. And some of them are referencing other actors. And it's like, well, now I literally got to like do homework. I gotta pause the book. Motorcycle guy. And again, like that's not even a bad thing either, because that's kind of the purpose of books, and what kind of makes them interesting is that sometimes you do just got to sit there and do research, which I'm fine with. But just that chapter specifically, I feel like I was pausing constantly and be like, okay, who's this? What's the context? Who's this? What's the context? And that's only a criticism really, because this book isn't just like quote to quote whatever. A lot of it is the author's sort of like analysis on what the chapter is going to be about, and his kind of perspective on the subject of the chapter. And then like he'll probably do a couple quotes that have a similar meaning, and then he'll like provide a kind of description or a analysis on the quote. And then depending on like what the quote is like saying, or who the quote is by, like he'll provide some context, which I think is good, again, because it just feels like he's doing the homework for me almost. But then it gets annoying when he has like maybe like 5 or 6 quotes in a row, and all of them are referencing sort of people. This is going back to chapter 12 specifically, and I have no context for anything that's going on, and the metaphors aren't that interesting, or the quotes aren't that interesting. Simply because they have no context, and they have no kind of like analysis on them. Again, just sort of lost on me. And that's not a problem on the whole. That's literally just a problem with that chapter specifically, from what I remembered. But even then, like there were a few quotes in that chapter that I quite liked, honestly. I think one specifically, well, because again, they're actors and they're talking about, their craft, yeah, but then also just like life as a whole. So some of the ones that were a bit more general and not necessarily directed towards people, not necessarily directed towards the craft to an extent that some of them are, but more so just like speaking on like their perspective on life and how their craft like bleeds into their life, or how life bleeds into their craft, right? Some of that stuff was really interesting. There's one from Keanu Reeves. Let me find it. Yeah, because I mean, I was doing homework as well. While doing this, I would just pick apart and annotate things that were interesting to me. Let me see. Where is he? Where's Mr. Reeves? Oh yeah, but another thing that's kind of worth pointing out too is again, like I said, that this book involves like, well, you know, a lot of different people and a lot of historical figures. The author of the book, I mean, never mind, I'm not gonna get into this this specific thing, but what I do want to say is there's a lot of reoccurring people as part of the quotations, which is fine. You know, again, it's the author's book, and you know, maybe he just heavily researched these people and, you know, found out these like interesting things about them, and you know, like maybe they do just happen to say really interesting things. But it's interesting sometimes too, because like he'll reference these people, like, you know, through the quotes, and then whenever he provides his like little like annotation or analysis on the quote, he'll always reiterate who they are. Like he did it specifically with some like political figure, but he brings them up twice because the political figure makes a reference to like politics and fly fishing, and the author uses two different quotes from him, and it was kind of jarring because obviously the first time I read it, I was like, okay, that's interesting, just like politician he's into fly fishing, all right, cool. And then in the next chapter he brings them up again, and it's literally like copy pasted like text, and I'm like, what the fuck, like didn't I already read this? Went back a couple pages, and yeah, I had already read it. So I don't know, a bit weird, but yeah, there's a few like reoccurring figures throughout. There's a lot of Teddy Roosevelt, there's a lot of again, like not really complaining, just pointing it out because I thought it was interesting while I was reading it. But yeah, like a lot of Teddy Roosevelt, a lot of his quotes weren't really resonant with me, honestly, which is why I'm bringing them up. Anais Nin shows up a couple times, and their quotes, pretty sure it's a woman, their quotes were very interesting, so I enjoyed those. I probably have a couple written down. Nietzsche shows up a lot, Frederick, that is. Let's see a couple other ones. Yeah, because like he just has like a couple like just go-tos. Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, that is. Who else? Yeah, like Anais Nin. Oh, here you go. I'll share one of my Anais Nin ones since I didn't find the Keanu Reeves one. The self is merely the lens through which we see others and the world. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Again, just like kind of talking about perception, but just like very like eloquently put, and way better than I or probably most other people could put it. I don't know, again, like I feel like the sort of magic with a lot of these quotes and the book itself is sort of like describing the things that you're probably thinking about like very consistently, but just giving you a person who just nailed it, right? And that's the other thing too, like in regards to like nailing a type of perspective, is there's a lot of quotes that are kind of what are words? I guess just like a sort of like iteration on like a previous quote. So sometimes I'm thinking, I'm like yeah, good quote, like said a bit differently, but this person just like nailed it, man. Yeah, because I mean, obviously there's like a whole section talking about life and stuff like that, and there's a lot of great life quotes, no doubt. But some of them are, you know, just so good. Like that's probably the only one that like sticks in my mind, at least. Yeah, but some other repeats, you know, I mentioned Henry David Thoreau. Ralph Waldo Emerson shows up a couple times. Who else shows up? A handful of times. Yeah, but I mean, again, like you'll just see some of the same figures. Like he uses a lot of these like founding father type quotes. So there's like a handful of like Thomas Jefferson, like James Madison, you know, stuff like that in there. So my assumption is he's like a history buff, if I had to take a guess. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's the Keanu Reeves one. It's hard to act in the morning. The muse isn't even awake, which, you know, funny, because then you can just apply that to other aspects, right? You know, it's hard to like get up and feel motivated when you physically aren't awake, and then the things that give you inspiration don't feel awake either. But that's also like part like personification too, like a muse. Sure, it can be like a physical person, but I mean, usually when they say muse, they just mean inspiration, a general sense of inspiration. So saying that it is an awake is personification. Again, interesting. But I think this book is interesting too, especially if you're just like interested in writing. I think after this book, and with some of the stuff that I wrote, either about it or just stuff that I'm writing for myself at the moment, or just like general observations, like I'm always trying to work in like a metaphor, something unique. Like I'm trying to find my own type of metaphors, I guess. No doubt they've probably been used before, but there's something I wrote recently that I was actually quite proud of, and the metaphor that I found for it was very good and layered. I'm kind of patting myself on the back too much, but maybe one day I'll share. But point being, I feel like this book really did at least open my eyes to just like considering the metaphor a bit more, at least to make it's weird now, like obviously when you write for yourself, again, there's no real audience and there's no real objective other than to get your ideas expressed or like a feeling expressed, but still, I don't know, I like the idea of like flowery language, you know what I mean, or just like adding a bit more just to have fun with it, really. Because like obviously back then I feel like somebody would only add a metaphor into their stuff, or I would to an extent, for like the curriculum aspects of the writing, or even then just like to increase the word count, right? If we're talking about like being back in like high school English sort of thing. No, but I mean at the moment I just like trying to use metaphors, and obviously similes specifically is the easiest form of metaphor, just because you can say like and then connect the two ideas very easily. I'm trying to get better about having a more loose type of metaphor or like analogy without having to use like or as, for a simile. I don't know. I feel like there's something quite like crafted and I don't know, a bit more respectable maybe about it. Again, just like kind of challenging myself, right? And I guess this book at the very least did like challenge me, at least like with a few like different ways of thinking, or even then just like the way I decide to approach things. Oh look, here we go. This is just a nice one. To love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides, by David Viscott. Again, just nice, right? That was a good thing too. There's a quote in here at one point about reading, so I'm assuming it's in the final chapter, the literary life. And there's actually a quote at the very beginning that's very similar. Let me find it. Let me see. Yeah, because I mean, like there's a handful of quotes in here that just have to do with writing that I actually quite liked. More so just like commentary on. Let me see. Like I really want to find the quote because I think it's there somewhere, but. Sorry, my notes are very all over the place. Are we here? Maybe? Oh, here we go. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. There's a quote towards the end of the book that's very similar to that. And again, it's basically just saying, like, books are meant to be absorbed in some type of way, you know what I mean? So like don't be scared to just like sit and like annotate, you're not meant to just read something and forget it, right? Because then obviously then the implication would be like what you read was unimportant or bad even, but even the unimportant and bad stuff I think has value, you know what I mean? There's something to learn from it at least, what not to do, right? If you want to be cynical about it, but there's still value in minor things, I think. But that was just a good quote that, again, with the flowery language too, tasted, swallowed, chewed, digested. And then I wrote like a little thing about it, but I was talking about consumerism mainly, again, because all of that is like vocabulary or like verbiage regarding tasting, eating, consuming. But then, you talk about like a media diet, media appetite. So a lot of the verbiage like sort of makes sense, But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But then obviously the quote itself, I mean, it's true, right? Like some books, or even then just like some art in general, you just like really sit there and think about, and some of them you just pass them, and that's that for them, right? No, but yeah, because I think especially towards the beginning, I was stopping like consistently and just like writing about stuff, and I mean, I got like a handful of pages now, just sitting there and like writing about stuff, and I'm like, man, I'm never gonna finish this book if I just keep doing this. Like every page, there's like 2 or 3 things that are really standing out, and I'm just reading it. So I got into a decent flow where I did just start reading just to read, and then again, like homework, going back and then taking my notes. You know what I mean? So I'm sort of reading it like a second time, which again is nice because like the chapter's relatively about 20 pages, more or less. So it's sort of easy to do the homework that way. There's a quote regarding homework too. Being a writer is like having homework every night for the rest of your life, by Lawrence Kasdan. I mean, true, right? And nothing wrong with homework, but at the same time, it's like reading is meant to be entertaining, and I guess homework can be entertaining. Just work in general can be entertaining sometimes. But here's the quote that's similar to the one from the beginning about tasting and chewing and swallowing. To read without reflecting is like eating without digesting. Edmund Burke. So that was definitely a nice thing to hear, because it made me feel validated for everything beforehand, for like pausing so often just to reflect on what I was actually reading. Because I mean, to me, it wouldn't like I don't think the reading would mean anything if I just said, oh, I'm gonna want to read a lot this year, and I just read things just to read them. You know what I mean? I'm not like ingesting any type of information or absorbing anything. Really, I'm not learning anything if I weren't reflecting on every single word. No, maybe not every single word, but just the things that I find important, right? No, so I mean, I guess like the minor like complaining that I did regarding the book. I mean, especially towards the end, because I think there was a nice flow within some of those middle chapters that I was really, really enjoying the book, which is the only reason why I complained about the last few chapters being a bit more like underwhelming. Mainly because they're about subjects I didn't really care about. There we go. I think I was holding that in for the last 20 minutes. You know what? The one bone I'm going to pick, again, the author, white guy, and then I said that he uses a lot of quotes from older like political figures and stuff like that. So a lot of, again, like Churchill and shit. Roosevelt. There he is in the sports section. I don't know. Not a lot of I don't know. Never mind. I feel like it's already very heavily implied what I'm trying to imply, but never mind. Anyways, still enjoyable, but yeah, like I don't give a 3 shits about sports, and a lot of the metaphors like kind of fucking suck. Like this one. Nah, I'll spare him. That's the other thing too. Like, there's definitely some fucking quotes in here that like kind of suck, honestly. Just like dumb shit, man. Just like, oh, life is like wine type shit. Like, what the fuck? I hate that shit, man. There's a couple quotes that are like that are just like super, super simple, and you could basically replace it with like fucking anything. It's like, oh, blank is like blank, and there's like no fucking nuance to anything being said. I don't know. That's just me personally. That's just me personally. I don't know, but then some are just like nice for the language. Like again, like I mean, I said I didn't care about sports, but the wind blessed me, and it took me to a page that actually has a decent quote. One that I don't have written down, but just one that I found interesting when I was reading it. Statistics are used by baseball fans in much the same way that a drunk leans against a street lamp. It's there more for support than enlightenment. Again, just interesting, like a little like introspective, but then also quite humorous, witty, right? You know, yeah, but there's some of that too, like some that don't necessarily like stick with me, but as I was reading them, I was enjoying them, again, just from like a writing perspective, like enjoying the wordplay. Yeah, but you know, just enjoying the wordplay mainly. But no, I guess for like a first proper book, pretty good, honestly. I really enjoyed it. I took a lot of notes, that's for damn sure. The title was funny. I'll probably try to come up with my own very witty fucking title for this bullshit too. But again, just kind of wanted to talk about something, and I mean, it was inspiring in a lot of ways to continue writing and try to perfect certain things in my writing, at least, or you know, at least regarding metaphors and whatnot, just to make points that I'm trying to express in my writing come across a lot more clearly. Because I mean, again, that's kind of the whole point of the metaphor. I mean, well, look, here it is. Again, on the title, quite apt. Shout out to Robert Frost, poet. An idea is a feat of association, and the height of it is a good metaphor. That's all we got to say. That's all we got to say. But again, enjoyable. I'm very excited to continue reading shit. I think, I don't know, because like this is sort of like the only book, like I have like a bunch of books that just collect dust, really, but this is one that I kind of wanted to start with. I don't know why, it just kind of grabbed me. Maybe because there's a fish on a bicycle on the cover. No, again, like it had to do with writing, and I want to be slightly more serious about writing for myself. So I thought this would be a good starting place, and I feel like I learned a lot, so that's good. But I think a lot of the books that I have going forward, a lot of them will probably just be more poetry books. I mean, again, Savannah Brown, I like her poetry, and she has some nonfiction as well. And I have the other one, the truth about keeping secrets, I believe is what it's called off the top of my head, which I've read before, but it'd be worth a reread. Some of the other books are books that I'm basically gonna be rereading, more fiction, honestly. Like I want to reread The Road. I actually just started Tuesdays with Maury, which is honestly quite short, which is sort of what's appealing about it. So, you know, it's just another thing. Again, unfortunately, to like knock off, but I remember liking the book quite a bit. And I mean, reading it now, like I think I only read the first like 15 pages, and it's already quite striking. So I feel like that'd be a good read. And then, yeah, there's like a handful of other just like nonfiction that I'll be reading. And then some like more tough nonfiction that I'd like to tackle at some point, but I think I need to like work my way up to it. Because like the Road, I think it was like 200 plus pages, closer to 300 maybe. I don't know, like in that 200 300 range. And then this book was like 310 or so. So not that bad, but like that poetry from Savannah Brown, I think it was rather light. I don't know. But like the more challenging stuff I want to read, like obviously I reference David Foster Wallace quite a bit. So I bought The Pale King, and that book is quite thick. I didn't jump straight into Infinite Jest, and I was honestly tempted to start with Interviews with Hideous Men. Is that? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Just because like it's a bit thinner, or even Oblivion. Oblivion's quite thin, sort of, at least compared to his other stuff. But The Pale King is like kind of thick. Oh, no. Innuendo. Sorry, I'm immature. Yeah, but so definitely that at some point. But then also still nonfiction, Dune. Like I have a copy of Dune that I found at a book garden, which is where they grow the books. Yeah, so I picked one from there, and it happened to be Dune. And yeah, Dune is kind of intimidating just because it's very thick, very science fiction, like hard science fiction kind of. and I feel like it's just going to be a lot of names to remember. So I'm probably going to be taking notes rather vigorously on that, just so I can remember everything. But I'm excited, honestly. I feel like there's been previous videos where I talked about how much I used to enjoy reading, and getting back into it. And I mean, like, once like I get into that flow of just reading and not having anything to like distract myself, really, it is quite a fun activity. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. Very excited going forward, of course. Thank you. Take care.